Now we're going to review the data model. Now the data model is extremely important to get DAX working well within your models. And that's why I'm going to spend a bit of time here going through how you should set this up, some best practice tips around how you should set the data model up. As you're learning DAX, you will likely write some DAX formula, and sometimes you'll just get these really weird results that just make absolutely no sense at all. The main reason why you'll be getting those results is truly because the data model is not set up correctly. So you have to have a really good understanding of what is going on in here to then make sure that DAX works well. So these are my best practice tips to setting up your data model here. Now remember, in the data scenario we had the sales table, and this was the transaction table. Now this is the fact table. This holds every level of granular detail around every sale that we've made. And so the recommendation is to always try and put, if you can, your fact table down the bottom, and then these other tables, which are what are termed your lookup tables. And this includes tables like customers, your product information, your date table, your salespeople, your locations. These lookup tables, which are essentially like filtering tables, you want to try and put them up across the top like this. Now, why do I recommend doing this? Now, the main reason is because when you are writing DAX formula, you have to try and visualize what is actually going on in the tables in your data model to get specific results. And what I've found is that if you organize your model like this and then build your relationships between these tables, it is much easier in your mind to think, to imagine filters flowing down a hill or flowing down to your fact tables. And you can see here that this filter, this arrow pointing towards the fact table, suggests that the filters flow from this table and they can flow all the way down to this table. Now you don't have to set it up like this, and I'm sure some of your models you may have already created aren't set up like this, but I am just recommending the importance of trying to understand what is going on in the underlying tables, and I want to really reiterate that. And I have found personally the easiest way to work out what is going on in your formulas is if your data models are set up like this and you can visualize what is happening to the filters, the filtering which is going on in your underlying tables. And so if we just finish off some of these relationships, I'm just going to move, I'm just going to connect the index columns from my lookup table into the into the columns of my fact table and my sales table. And so I've got my date here. I'm just going to click and drag this down to the purchase date. And I've got my salesperson ID, and I'm going to click and drag that down to that column there, and I've got my location ID. Okay, so now we have a data model that looks relatively intuitive, right? Our lookup tables up the top and our fact tables down the bottom. All of these relationships are what are termed one-to-many relationships, and when you're starting out in Power BI and with DAX, this is going to be, I would say almost 90% of the time, this is going to be your go-to relationship. You want to join a column of unique values from your lookup tables to a column of many values down in your fact table. And so with the one-to-many relationships, you do just that. And all that really means is that a filter can be placed on, say, customer name, and when that filter is placed, it will then work through this line, through this relationship, down to the many side, and then filter this table. And that is what we're trying to what we're trying to achieve with a data model in general. And then it's truly actually the way that DAX is, how immensely scalable writing DAX code is, because you can write one really simple formula, as you'll see shortly, but you can get so many different results because of this, the way that we've set up this data model. So those are my best practice tips. Obviously this isn't a data modeling course, because we could really have an entire course just on data modeling, but I just wanted to show you some simple best practice tips to setting up your data model before we actually jump into DAX, because it is truly important to make sure that this is actually set up well, or the calculations that you get in DAX just will make absolutely no sense at all. And we want to make sure that we have a seamless learning journey with DAX as much as possible, because at times it can get quite complex, and setting this up well to begin with is how you're going to achieve that.